and a good Thursday afternoon / evening, depending upon where you are in the country. This is Steve with On the Ring Apron, a subsidiary of the Mania Club, welcoming you to our Halloween Havoc preview show, live here from the Gata Dome, a.k.a. my home office. Still holding on to the OTRA Championship. Thank you for all who are supporting us in that. Thank you, and say hello to everyone that's in the chat so far. We love chatting wrestling here, and we're going to talk, as I said, about the forthcoming NXT pay-per-view Halloween Havoc. Unfortunately, as I did mention in Plate Exchange, for those of you who joined us earlier today, the ladies are double booked today, so unfortunately they are out of play, so this will be a very condensed down version, because I'm going to assume that there is not one person that is sitting in that chat that wants to listen to me chat for, 45 straight minutes. So we're going to keep it to, short, sweet, hopefully about 10 or 15 minutes. But we'll go ahead and get all the matches in. If you look over here to... there we go. Reverse camera. Over to this side, you see the scoreboard. Currently, I've still got the lead after our last double PLE. We do have 2 pay-per-views coming up, though, as we have Halloween Havoc not only this Sunday, but then we also have Crown Jewel from Riyadh, Saudi Arabia coming up this next Saturday. So a lot of good matches, a lot of good, interesting television coming up. And, of course, NXT not only doing its event in Hershey, Pennsylvania, but also a forthcoming event at 2300, formerly known as the ECW Arena in Philadelphia, coming up, matching it up on a Wednesday to go up against AEW, and to also kind of test the waters to see if they want to move NXT back to Wednesdays instead of Tuesdays. But we'll see how all that pans out. But either way, let's go ahead and get to the matches. For those of you who've never joined us before, my name is Steve. My partners in crime are Kia and Alyssa. As I said, unable to be here today, but we do already have their choices made. If you want to be a part of the OTRA universe, as you can see, they've got a scoreboard just as much. It is available on our YouTube community page. We're at the same thing, at On the Ring Apron. Just go to the community page and look underneath all of the lists, and you'll be able to get an opportunity to see the different matches that are there, and whatever the results are at the time that the bell rings on Sunday to begin the match will be who the official picks are. At Bad Blood earlier this month, we actually had one match that came down to a single vote, with Damian Priest narrowly edging out Finn Balor for their match at Bad Blood in Atlanta. So every vote counts and could very well potentially make a difference. Well, let's go ahead and clear the scoreboard here, and let's move into our first match of what is expected to be 5. They may potentially add a 6th one on the card. But if we look over here, and it's to my left, not sure which side it's on your phone, but we begin with our first match, and it is for the Women's NXT North American Championship, as the incumbent and first champion, Kelani Jordan, will defend against one member of Fatal Influence. Now, as is most of the cases with most matches at Halloween Havoc, this was a spin the wheel, make the deal match, in which case Fatal Influence spun the wheel at the end of NXT, and it landed on Spinner's Choice, which means Fatal Influence, more primarily Jayne, will get an opportunity to be able to choose the stipulation, and it's already been made very clear that not only are they not going to tell Kelani who is going to be her opponent, but also are not going to tell her the stipulation until it is time for the match to start. So the champion certainly has her work cut out for her. Kelani Jordan has taken on all challengers. She's faced off against people like Tatum Paxley, has taken on challengers like Wendy Chu, and has even gone head-to-head with TNA Knockouts champ Jordynne Grace, unfortunately on a losing effort, but she has proven that she is willing to go up against the best that NXT and other brands have to offer, and she will see this as just another stepping stone and another challenge on her route to becoming a great legend to begin the legacy that is the Women's North American Championship. As I said, we are having to make this prediction based on who we think is going to take the match. Personally, I think it's going to be Jazmyn Nix because Jacy and Fallon both had matches on Tuesday when they took on Guilia and Stephanie Vaquer. So we do certainly see exactly where that's going to potentially pan out. So we will officially go ahead to get to our picks. You're seeing my hands swat around. There's a gnat in here, and I want to try to do something about it. But either way, we are going to go ahead and go to our predictions here. Normally, we go in the order of whoever's turn it is, but obviously with us being out of play, everybody just turned in their picks separately. and I have their list to my right, so that way I can know who they chose as well. But I'm going to move each of these over here just so that way it can be illustrated. But all three of us, regardless of the stipulation and regardless of who is the chosen person for Fatal Influence, we all are taking Kelani Jordan to retain. We've seen the story play out enough times that it's a very rare circumstance in which case there is that much going against the champion and ultimately is not going to be able to and not able to overcome it. Kelani Jordan has taken on virtually every facet and every challenge that NXT has had to offer, while a lot of people said shockingly winning the Women's North American Championship all the way back in Vegas earlier this year. And she's done a downright great job of being able to be a fantastic champion, and I don't think that ends here. I do think that her run is going to be one that is going to be historic to open up the championship, because this is the doorway for mid-card titles to potentially become a thing on the main roster. So it'll be important that her title reign means something, otherwise it kind of defeats the purpose of it. So all three of us, regardless of Fatal Influence's stipulation and regardless of who takes the match, we're all taking Kelani Jordan to retain at Halloween Havoc. So that's one down, 4 more to go. Again, if you guys have predictions, spoilers, whatever you want to call it. We don't call it top rope predictions. We call it top rope spoilers, because we're here to tell you who's going to end up taking the match. So we love hearing from you guys in the chat. If you guys have comments, thoughts, feelings, agree, disagree, hey, that's what we're here for. Match 2 is the ambulance match that was put together towards the end of NXT this last Tuesday, as a very, very bitter rivalry is going to finally come to a head, as Andre Chase, returning from injury, will challenge Ridge Holland, former Chase U member and 2 former tag team champions together, to an ambulance match. Ultimately, Ridge Holland came to NXT claiming he was looking for redemption, claiming he wanted someone to give him a chance, someone to give him an opportunity, despite the fact that he had had a history of not only injuring people, but also turning on his partners. It was ultimately Andre Chase and Chase University, begrudgingly to some of the members, that ultimately gave him the chance. And over time, it appeared that he had earned the trust of all the members, primary members of Chase U, primarily Mr. Chase, as well as Duke Hudson, and especially Thea Hale. And ultimately, it would end up leading them to Tag Team Gold, as they would win the NXT Tag Team Championships over the current champions, Nathan Frazer and Axiom, to give Ridge Holland the very first championship he would ever win in NXT. Unfortunately, it would be short-lived, as 2 weeks later, they would defend the championships at No Mercy in Denver. Alyssa and I were live for that, and ultimately would be defeated by the previous champions, Axiom and Frazer, who still hold the titles to this day. And after the match, Ridge Holland would turn on his Andre Chase brethren, ultimately putting Andre Chase through a table and forcing him to leave in an ambulance. Since then, the Chase U members have all sworn revenge on behalf of their fallen teacher. Unfortunately, all of them have come up short, as Riley Osborne and Duke Hudson have both come up short in matches against Ridge Holland, and Thea Hale has been continuously tormented by Ridge Holland throughout this process. And just when it appeared that Ridge was about to put the final stake in the coffin that is Chase U, it was ultimately the return of the maestro himself, Andre Chase, coming back to not only stop the attack, but also to challenge Ridge to an ambulance match. It's been an internal struggle inside of the university, both in and out of the classroom, and ultimately it will be decided as one of these two men is going to leave Halloween Havoc in the back of an ambulance. Moving to our official selections here, let's see who everyone took. I am going with Andre Chase. Kia and Alyssa are both going with Ridge Holland. Unfortunately, they're not here to assign their reasons, and so I can only speculate as to why they each took Ridge in this particular one. Personally, I think Ridge has been the person that has gotten the upper hand, and I think this is the moment when you need Andre to come back and ultimately needs to find a way to go through it. Also, of course, an ambulance match is no disqualifications, no count-out, so while that may favor Ridge in terms of the use of chairs and tables, it also allows the Chase U section, as well as the student body per se, to have an opportunity to get involved in this match. So I do feel that Andre will have that bit of a man advantage, and hopefully it will be enough. So I'm going to be going off on my own here. When I last looked, it was a very close vote. I think Andre had a slight advantage over Ridge. Again, you can find that on our YouTube community page, so definitely take the time to go over there. Subscribe, follow us, take a look. We post them before every event, and that's also where we put all of our videos when we are finished talking about them. So that concludes match 2. Let me slide this down here, and our third match. And when we do predict the matches here, we do put them in the order that we think they're going to go in. I will say for the record, though, that I feel that this match right here could very well main event Halloween Havoc, and that is going to be the tables, ladders, and scares match between the Don of NXT, Tony D'Angelo, and the ruler of NXT, Oba Femi, as they will battle one last time for the NXT North American Championship. Oba Femi, since joining NXT, had enjoyed a over 300-day undefeated run, ultimately winning the breakout tournament, defeating Chase U's Riley Osborne in the final, and 2 weeks later cashing in his contract to win the North American Championship over Dragon Lee. Since then, he has ruled over NXT, self-proclaimed, but perhaps more truthful than not, in terms of being the person and the head guy in NXT, taking on all challengers, including sometimes multiple people at once, and coming out with the gold and his undefeated record. However, recently on NXT, it was finally dethroned, as on the second day of NXT's premiere on the CW, he was ultimately conquered by the Don of NXT, Tony D'Angelo, in his second attempt to try to take the North American Championship away from Oba. It would be via a schoolboy roll-up, so, you know, a lot of people feeling that, you know, perhaps the victory by Tony was a fluke. He claims he got Oba into a false sense of security and was able to lure him in. Oba's not buying it and feels that the stipulation is ultimately going to play more in his favor. Also, to ensure that the rest of the D'Angelo family does not come into play, on Tuesday's NXT, Oba would not only put both Stax Lorenzo and Luca Cristofino through tables, but he also would seemingly work out some type of deal to have the returning Nikita Lyons take out Adriana Rizzo, which will force Tony to have to go it alone on Sunday. This match is tables, ladders, and scares, but as of D'Angelo's request, which was granted by Ava on social media earlier this morning, Tony has requested that this match end only by pinfall, not by climbing a ladder to retrieve the belt. He wants to ensure that any victory by one of them over the other is legitimate and is no question or controversy if ultimately he is able to conquer the ruler again. We'll see if Oba is able to regain his rulership of NXT or whether the Don is the first person to truly have Oba's number. Taking a look at our predictions here and putting in their 2 picks here. All 3 of us are going the same direction on this one, and we are all going to go with Tony D'Angelo. And that is something odd because I have been one of the biggest Oba Femi fans since he really hit the scene. Of course, he played sports at Alabama, who I'm a huge fan of, but also at the same time, I mean, he just has the look, the stature, and the charisma of a person that you can tell is going to get pushed very, very high within the company, and the fact that they're doing this on a guy who essentially is here on a nil deal makes it even more stunning, and he is setting the tone for people that are going to be coming in on future NIL contracts. However, I do feel like this is a situation where this story and this match needs to come to an end, so that way we can move on with a new storyline for the North American Championship, and either Oba is destined to be heading towards the NXT Championship, or he is headed towards the main roster. There has even been some discussion about him potentially being in the in Solo Sikoa's corner with the Bloodline for one match, possibly at War Games. So it'll be curious to see if they'll have him maybe do a one-time transition up to the main roster. So with that in mind, we're all going with Tony D'Angelo to find a way to ultimately win this match. 2 matches to go. Let's move into our penultimate one. And again, another match where I do feel this is a match that could potentially main event. But it is our match that has our what is considered dream match in terms of the overall competition within the NXT women's division. It's no surprise to a lot of people when we state that ultimately the women's division in NXT is the most solid division in all of WWE or in all of professional wrestling, period. And it's going to be no different here, as this dream matchup between 2 fantastic women's teams will go head-to-head, as the NXT Women's Champion Roxanne Perez will team with best frenemy, I suppose, Cora Jade, making only her 2nd match back since returning from injury. They will be challenged by the duo of Guilia and Stephanie Vaquer, who both within the last 2 months have each made their respective debuts and have got eyes on Roxanne and the NXT Championship. Roxanne has already successfully defended over Guilia once before. Granted, there was a lot of controversy and Cora Jade's ultimate return that ended up resulting in that retainment. Vaquer has still not had an opportunity to be able to take on Roxanne. And you know that with other people waiting in the wings, as well as the emergence of Zarya, formerly known as Delta, now joining NXT, with her expecting to make her debut in some way at Halloween Havoc. It's definitely going to be interesting to see if she plays a role in favor of Guilia and Vaquer, or whether she will just have some sort of different storyline all the way around. It's destined that Roxanne is going to eventually drop the championship, likely to one of those 3 women, but this will not be the night that it happens. There's also been a lot of discussion, and I noticed they've been mentioning it more and more on the main roster, that Tiffany Stratton does have the ability to be able to cash in on NXT superstars as well, specifically mentioning both Roxanne Perez and Kelani Jordan by name, says Corey Graves. So you do wonder if this has all the makings of Roxanne possibly getting cashed in on, if ultimately they'd rather her have Tiffany return back to NXT. I personally don't see it, but it's at least in speculation. But we get this dream tag team matchup, and this is going to truly show you the strength of the NXT women's division and why you have, in this match, 3 out of the top 11 on the recent PWI Women's 250 wrestling in this match. And then, of course, you still have Zarya waiting in the wings, who is ranked inside the top 20 herself. Looking at our official predictions for this match, I am going with Guilia and Vaquer. So is Kia. Alyssa is going with Roxanne and Cora. Again, I don't know the reason for why the women are choosing to go the directions they're going. Anybody who has followed me and knows me knows I am a humongous, huge Roxanne Perez fan. However, this being a tag team match sets open the door for her to potentially take a loss for the first time, actually, since the very beginning of the year, although I would think that it would more than likely be Cora taking the pin. But we could see a surprise, and also Zarya may get involved here and potentially could help to lead chaos and allow for Roxanne and Cora to be able to go over. However, I do feel that Guilia and Vaquer are here to stay, and they are here to set the tone in terms of what this division is going to be, especially with Guilia taking a loss so early in her time in NXT. So ultimately, I am going to go with Guilia and with Vaquer. So is Kia. Alyssa going with Roxanne and Cora Jade. And that moves us into our last match. Let me move these back one last time. And moving it into, again, what we at least are predicting is going to be the main event. But as I said, either of the last 2 matches we have talked about could easily main event this premium live event as well. But we do move into our 5th and final match that is currently on the card for Halloween Havoc, and it is for the NXT Championship, the 3rd and final match of this trilogy, as the current NXT Champion, Trick Williams, will once again defend the NXT Championship against All Ego Ethan Page, this time with the 2 entering the Devil's Playground. Now, this has been a war of attrition and a war of words between the 2 since Ethan Page made his debut all the way back in Las Vegas earlier in the early part of the summer. Ethan has had his eyes set on one thing and one thing only, and that is being the NXT champion, which he successfully did only 28 days after his NXT debut. Although it was not Trick Williams that ultimately was pinned, it was Javon Evans, with Trick Williams being part of the four-way that ultimately resulted in Paige winning the championship. Trick Williams had to work hard, had to go through a war of attrition with Pete Dunne in order to earn his opportunity back for the NXT championship. And at the first NXT event on CW, live from Chicago, with CM Punk as the guest referee, Trick Williams was able to become a two-time NXT champion by ultimately defeating All Ego to win back the title, a new one that he gets to hold in his possession. Since then, Ethan Page has argued that he should have been immediately given a rematch. He was forced to have to earn it in a match that ultimately involved several other people, but Ethan Page was able to come out on top, giving us our third and final match, presumably, between these two. Trick Williams has flat out said, any and all comers, I'll defend against everyone. I want to be a fighting champion. Ethan Page, however, stating, of course, that this match is going to be on the Devil's Playground, said, you've never seen anybody bring the devil out of himself like I am going to do, Trick. This is going to be something new for you to experience. Ultimately, we do see this being likely the main event because it is for the top championship, but I could certainly see either of the other two main eventing as well. But essentially, this is a storyline that has carried us through the entire summer into the early fall, and it's now finally time to either have Ethan step out of the NXT championship run and give him and bring another opportunity and another superstar up, whether that's Femi or whether that's somebody else. Or is it time for Trick Williams to now lay down the championship officially? Because each of the two times that these two have faced each other, Trick Williams has won. So he's actually going for the three-match sweep. The only defeat was in the Fatal 4-Way where he lost the championship. But at both Battleground and again on the CW premiere, Trick Williams in one-on-one matches has gone over Ethan Page. So it's been the one thorn in his side. And moving to our official predictions here, I don't think this one's going to be necessarily a surprise to anyone that follows us on a regular basis, but all three of us are going to go with Trick Williams to retain the championship here. Why put the championship back on Trick just for that one pop in Chicago if ultimately 4 weeks later you're just going to put the title back on Ethan Page? At that stage, you should have had Ethan retain, and you possibly could have had him, have a different storyline going into Halloween Havoc. I think the inclusion of the Devil's Playground is going to allow for these two to really kind of open up the story and really be able to open up the type of people they are. Trick Williams, of course, has gone through attrition in terms of his matches with Carmelo Hayes at this time last year. But now you're looking at, a different opponent, and this time, proving that his first NXT title run was not a fluke, as he's able to win it back the second time, becoming only the 8th person in NXT history to hold the NXT title more than once. Ethan Page trying to become number 9 on that list if he is able to be victorious. But ultimately, you add the no disqualification, no countouts, and the plethora of playground equipment that is going to be all around the ring. It's certainly going to lead to blood, guts, and carnage, with ultimately we all feel Trick Williams coming out on top and still your NXT champion when it's all said and done. And so with that, that does bring an official end to this very abbreviated version of Halloween Havoc and Top Rope spoilers for Halloween Havoc. The ladies, of course, send their condolences to all of our followers out there as we do sit down on the fact that we are closing in on almost 5,000 followers on YouTube and almost 4,000 followers here on TikTok. It's because of you guys that we do this. We enjoy doing it anyway, but when we know we've got such a great fan base that's following us and is listening to what we're saying, it just means that much more to us. So thank you so much for everybody who came in. I saw Bird up in the chat there for seemingly the entire show. I think he dropped off at the last second, but ultimately it is so wonderful. We definitely would love to see a little more communication in the chat because, we want to get your thoughts on matches. We want to hear what you guys have to say. The ladies will hopefully have a little bit more open availability for us to be able to have them join us for Crown Jewel top rope spoilers next week, and maybe we can also squeeze another episode of Pour the Tea. I know there's been some new discussion about potentially the Roman Reigns and Cody Rhodes saga, and also we're getting ready to put an official start to the John Cena retirement tour, and definitely going to make sure that he gets his flowers along the way for everything that he's done. But with that, that does bring it into our show. This is Steve with On the Ring Apron, representing Mania Club, the current OTRA leader, but not the current champion. That's Alyssa. And on behalf of the ladies, Kia, Alyssa, and the staff that work with us, we want to thank everybody from Mania Club. Remember, it is Breast Cancer Awareness Prevention Month. So if you haven't done so, you can go to the foundation, Susan G. Komen, to be able to donate to try to stop people from having to ever deal with this disease. And also a faux pas on my part is I actually completely forgot to mention our sponsor for this particular episode. They sponsored my plate exchange episode earlier in the day, but it is Freebird, and I'm holding up the little jar right here. As we said, you've probably seen the commercials for them, but they are the ones who have the little electric shaver, and as you can see, I'm sporting, a nice slick back do, these days. Something I decided to do in the summer, and have decided just going forward that I like it. Of course, I'm dealing with a few things right now, so the no hair look is kind of required, but at the same time, they make sure that I've got a nice thing. They've got wonderful products. They've got pre-shave, post-shave. They've got beard oil, so that way you can be able to keep this nice thing. I don't know if you can hear it, but it's it's very soft, very fluffy and whatnot. So it really is fantastic products, and unlike other companies that we get sponsorship for because hey, we like having lights on while we're dealing with this, this is a product that I truly get behind and truly believe that is for a good cause. So if you're looking to potentially change things up, or you're just looking for some great shaving products for men, and if you like to shave the legs, the arms, other areas, we don't judge. They have wonderful products for you to pick from. So again, that's Freebird, my Freebird here on YouTube, also on TikTok. So definitely take a look at them. But either way, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate always you guys being able to join us here for our shows. Let's enjoy Sunday. And, if you go trick-or-treating on next week, please be careful out there. And we're going to catch you again next week for hopefully Pour the Tea and Crown Jewel. You guys have a good one out there, all right?